Kotuya everyone. Thank you so much for checking out my channel and this video series on the High Republic comic book. My name is John and I am a Star Wars scholar. I create content for Star Wars fans like you and me by discussing things like plot, themes, philosophy, and everything else that makes Star Wars so amazing. My hope is to offer you engaging videos with stuff that we both love, and I really hope you take a moment to engage with me back. In this video, I offer my thoughts on Issue 2, Tomb in Space. So let's get to it. Jedi Knight Keeve Trennis, her former master, Skier, and Jedi Knights Serret and Tarek, who are identical Bond twins that share the same mind, are deployed from Starlight Beacon to investigate a distress call in the Kazlan system. However, when they arrive, they find a scene of carnage, but they sense survivors. The main hull of the ship is still pressurized, so they board the ship. Once on board, they immediately encounter gas, which indicates this is the work of the Nile. They split up, and Trennis and Serret go to the flight deck, and Skier and Tarek explore the rest of the ship. Skier begins to have flashbacks of the Battle of Kur, where he lost his arm, and Tarek senses the conflict and trauma in him. Trennis and Serret find a dead Hutt who has been shot and stabbed multiple times, and shows the first signs of nagnol poisoning. Skier finds a kind of barley on the floor of the ship, and while Tarek scans the remains, they are ambushed by a Nile sniper, and Tarek is injured. Skier removes his mask and begins to hunt down their attacker like Trandoshans used to do with Frist wolves. Skier cannot sense the attacker, but still is able to anticipate the attack, slicing the attacker in two. However, Skier then loses control and begins to slash violently at the dead body until Keeve stops him. The scene shifts to Starlight Beacon, where the team is reporting to Master Chris. Skier makes a remark that the Nile are animals, and they left one of their own on the ship to die, and Chris corrects Skier so as not to demonize their enemies. Maru's analysis of the barley shows that it is a special kind of ingredient that is used in making Bacta. Serret is able to locate the ship's point of origin, which was in the Sedri system, which has a planet called Sedri Minor, and a small colony founded over a decade ago. Chris decides to split up the team, sending Skier and Serret to Sedri Minor, and having Trennis and Tarek stay aboard the ship, while Chris and Jedi Rowe collect the ship. The scene shifts to Sedri Minor, where Skier and Serret are first met by children and then by a hostile Kalo Solman, who does not want the Jedi or the Republic at the colony. While Skier and Solman converse, Serret sees someone in the crops and follows them. Serret is attacked by something in the crops as he looks for the person. Back aboard the Hutt ship, Trennis shows Chris the remains of the Nile that Skier mutilated. As Chris and Trennis share their concerns for Skier, their conversation is interrupted by Tarek's screams of pain. He informs them that something horrible has happened to Serret. Chris contacts Skier to ask if Serret is with him, and Skier notices that Serret has left the area of the ship. Skier runs off into the crops searching for Serret, and the issue ends with Skier finding Serret's lightsaber on the ground. This issue contains a number of themes introduced in other High Republic media. The main focus is on Skier and his inability to properly cope with the trauma he has recently suffered at the Battle of Kur. The final pages of the previous issue had Trennis saying that she will not let her master or the other Jedi down, as well as mentions of her and Chris's concern for him. In the previous issue, Trennis and Chris were independent in their concern for Master Skier, but in this issue, they have the opportunity to meet and unite in their concern. I suspect Trinus and Chris will team up together to try and help Skier through his trauma and distress. But moving on to Skier directly, this issue shows a step-by-step descent into a personal darkness. At first, there is a detachment from his former Padawan, signaled with his opening lines. He calls Kiev Jedi Tranus, and he obviously says it in such a way that it bothers Kiev. Kiev feels that detachment when she says, "He used to call me Kiev." It bothers her that her former master is being distant from her. This detachment could be explained in several different ways. First and most obviously, Jedi are supposed to be detached. So Skier could still be trying to teach her this important Jedi lesson, even if she does not fully understand it at the moment. Second, Skier is the de facto leader of the mission, being a master while the other Jedis are knights. Such detachment might be somewhat political, insofar as he does not want to appear to show any sort of favoritism to Kiev. However, Skier does not show that same sense of formalness to the twins, so it is possible Skier is overcompensating. But if he is, that only serves as evidence of his imbalance. Third, Skier could be proud, in a good way, of the accomplishments of Trennis, and so takes the opportunity to acknowledge them in her official title. Fourth, Skier probably understands the internal struggle going on within Trennis and her self-doubt that she has at being a Jedi Knight. Her trip-up of the usual "May the Force be with you" line points to her nervousness and uncertainty. So, Skier could be using the formal title to remind her, over and over again, that she does belong as a Jedi Knight. The next step of Skier's descent into darkness is his flashbacks of the Battle of Kur. This is caused by Skier's realization that the gas is from the Nile. It is only when Skier suffers from those flashbacks that the formality of his addresses to Kiev drops slightly. Additionally, Skier gives advice to Trennis on the mission, but it is advice that he himself should be taking. He tells her to concentrate on the mission, but he himself is suffering from trauma. He tells her to use the Force when she cannot see, but later when he is hunting the Nile, he is unable to properly use the Force and see. The next step is Skier's diminished connection to the light side of the Force. He is unable to sense in the Force the Nile sniper in time, which leads to his inability to properly block the attack and Tarek's injury. He also removes his mask and begins to hunt the Nile using his Trandoshan natural skills. He even says he will have to, quote, "do this the old-fashioned way, as my ancestors hunted." He says this as he snarls. The next major step is his reaction to the Nile sniper. Instead of attempting to disarm him, he simply cuts him in half, and is depicted as being pretty out of control when he slashes. That state of being out of control is amplified when he proceeds to mutilate the body with his lightsaber. The next step is when he compares the Nile to animals, and Chris rightly calls him out on his demonization of his enemies. This step is followed by his refusal to listen to both Trennis and Tarek when he decides that Sarek and himself will go to Sedri Minor and investigate. His final step in the issue is when he becomes so focused on arguing with Solman that he does not even notice when Sarek leaves his side. It is only when Chris asks Skier about Sarek that he realizes Sarek is not next to him. Another major theme or plot point is the Drengir, which were introduced in the young adult novel Into the Dark. This comic book issue's story arc first appeared to be focused on the Nile, because of the Hutt's ship and the attack of the sniper. But as the scene shifts to Sedri Minor, the threat also shifts to the Drengir, and the tendril that captures Sarek appears to be that of a Drengir. The third theme is the incorporation of the Bacta plot line that runs in the backgrounds of all High Republic media. It is the Hetzel system that is the site of the Great Disaster, and that system is working on mass-producing Bacta for the galaxy. It is the subject of Bacta that brings Grand Masters Yoda and Veter to Starlight Beacon in Issue 1. It is the barley on the Hutt ship, which is a component of Bacta, that leads the Jedi to Sedri Minor. I think the production of Bacta will be a major ongoing theme of the High Republic. Moving away from continuing themes and onto new themes, there are a few of note in this issue. First, we have the introduction of Seret and Tarek, who share the same mind. Their names are also each other's, just backwards. That is a very interesting concept, and the issue explores the positive and negative effects of their situation. On the one hand, the twins can finish each other's sentences and be able to communicate in a way that others cannot. However, they are also linked in disadvantageous ways. When one of them is hurt, it deeply affects the other. So, it might be the case that to kill one would mean to kill the other. Finally, there's an interesting piece of foreshadowing. On page 10, it is said, "One person's disaster is another's opportunity." Superficially, this might as well be the motto of the Hutts, or any other scoundrel in the Star Wars universe. But perhaps more pointedly and specifically, this might describe Skier and his duality, which I discussed in the previous video. Skier the Jedi has suffered trauma and personal disaster at the Battle of Kur, and that in turn becomes an opportunity for the darker side of Skier to begin to establish itself. This issue seems to demonstrate this point. Keev's duality in issue 1 was more or less resolved to some satisfaction, but Skier's duality, and specifically his incompleteness, which is symbolized by his missing arm, was not only left unresolved, but a focal point at the end of the issue. That focal point becomes a major point in this issue, and there are no indications that Skier has turned a corner and is returning to the light. Quite the reverse. He seems to be heading more and more into his own personal darkness. Thanks for sticking around until the end of this video. Please drop a like if you think this video deserves it, and comment if you want to add your thoughts. Also, check out my other videos in this playlist or any of my other videos. Until next time, my friends, stay on target, and may the Force be with you.